Circuit City helped invent the electronics superstore, built a national American retailer, entered Canada through an acquisition, and traded successfully on the New York Stock Exchange. Yet in 2009, its United States operations were being liquidated, while pieces of the company passed to other owners. The empire did not merely lose first place, it stopped operating as the business that had created the category. That contrast makes a simple explanation tempting. One fatal decision, one executive error, one moment when Circuit City destroyed itself. But the available evidence does not establish such a moment. It supports a more precise conclusion. Circuit City's fundamental failure was that its pioneering format did not become an advantage durable enough to survive changing ownership, expansion, and competitive pressure. The format endured. The original company did not. The story began in 1949, when Samuel Wurtzel founded the Wards Company. Consumer electronics retailing had not yet assumed the form that later shoppers would recognize. Large stores filled with televisions, audio equipment, appliances, and related products. Circuit City's historical importance comes from what happened next. In the 1970s, the company pioneered the electronic superstore format. That was more than a new sign above a shop. A superstore gathered a broad electronics selection into a destination built around the category. It gave customers one obvious place to compare products that could be expensive, technical, and difficult to evaluate. The company eventually adopted the Circuit City name, operated stores across the United States, and completed a successful run on the New York Stock Exchange. The breakthrough was powerful because the store itself solved a customer problem. Electronics buyers needed access, selection, and comparison. A specialist superstore could concentrate those functions in one location. For Circuit City, each additional store could also strengthen national recognition. More locations made the name more familiar. Familiarity could bring more customers. Customer traffic could support a larger retail system. But that growth mechanism contained an important limitation. A retail format can be pioneered without remaining exclusive. Once the market understands the model, the pioneer must continually defend its execution, brand, locations, merchandise, service, and economics. The supplied record confirms that Circuit City pioneered the format. It does not show that the company possessed a permanent legal or technological barrier preventing competitors from using a similar approach. That distinction separates historical importance from lasting control. Circuit City could be the company that helped define the electronic superstore without being guaranteed ownership of the market it created. Its visible advantage was the format. Its hidden vulnerability was that a format can become an industry standard rather than a proprietary fortress. The company nevertheless expanded beyond its original American identity. In 2004, Circuit City acquired InterTAN, the parent of Canadian Radio Shack operations. The following year, those stores were rebranded as The Source by Circuit City. This placed the Circuit City name inside a Canadian chain whose roots already extended back decades. The acquisition is one of the few documented strategic choices in the supplied evidence. It showed that Circuit City was willing to extend itself through purchased assets and a second national market. But the record provided here does not establish the acquisition price, its profitability, its financing, or management's internal reasoning. It would therefore be misleading to declare that this transaction alone caused the collapse. What it does reveal is the shape of the empire near its later years. Circuit City was no longer simply an American store concept founded in 1949. It was a corporate system connecting United States operations, a Canadian chain, a public market history, physical locations, trademarks, and eventually an online identity. That apparent breadth made the later fragmentation more consequential. At its peak in cultural terms, Circuit City had become closely associated with a retail format it helped pioneer, but the supplied sources include no reliable peak year revenue, profit, market capitalization, debt, or store count. Those figures cannot responsibly be supplied here. Scale must instead be described through verified reach, stores across the United States, ownership of InterTAN beginning in 2004, and the rebranding of its Canadian operations in 2005. The absence of detailed financial evidence also matters to the diagnosis. It prevents a confident claim that one product category, one debt burden, one labor policy, or one executive decision was the fatal mistake. Those may appear in broader accounts of Circuit City, but they are not established by this source pack. A fair autopsy has to distinguish what the outcome proves from what later storytelling merely makes plausible. The outcome proves that Circuit City's different assets did not remain together. In 2009, amid the liquidation of the company's United States operations, Bell acquired the source for $135 million. Bell did not buy the entire Circuit City empire and continue it intact. It acquired the Canadian retail asset that had originated in Radio Shack franchises and had passed through InterTAN into Circuit City's ownership. This transaction exposes the central reversal. Expansion had assembled assets under Circuit City. Collapse separated them again. The Canadian chain continued under another owner, while the American operation was liquidated. The surviving value was real, but it no longer reinforced the company that had gathered it. The brand followed a similar path. Systemax operated CircuitCity.com from 2009 until 2012. The site was then consolidated into the Tiger Direct brand, although the Circuit City website remained open until Tiger Direct shut down in 2023. The name outlived the original operating company, but increasingly as an asset attached to someone else's system. In 2016, Ronnie Schmoll re-established the Circuit City brand after acquiring the brand name and trademark rights sold by Systemax. That event did not reverse the 2009 liquidation of the United States stores. It demonstrated something narrower. Even after the original enterprise had disappeared, the name still carried enough recognition to be acquired and used again. This is why the collapse cannot be explained as consumers simply forgetting Circuit City overnight. The trademark survived. The website survived in changing forms. The Canadian operation survived under Bell. What failed was the integrated corporation that once connected the name, stores, public company structure, and expansion strategy. The Canadian aftermath makes that fragmentation especially visible. Bell continued to own the source after purchasing it in 2009. In January 2024, BCE announced that approximately one-third of the source locations and the Barrie head office would close permanently. The remaining stores would transition through a franchising partnership with Best Buy, a former competitor. During the second half of 2024, 167 locations were temporarily closed, renovated, and rebranded as Best Buy Express. BCE retained ownership of the locations, but the stores began carrying exclusively Best Buy merchandise. They also offered services, including Geek Squad, while continuing to provide telecommunications services from BCE subsidiaries such as Bell Canada. The symbolism is striking. but it should not be overstated. The 2024 rebranding occurred 15 years after Bell bought the source from Circuit City during the American liquidation. It was Bell's later strategic decision, not a direct action by the defunct United States retailer. Still, it shows how completely the assets had migrated. Stores once branded The Source by Circuit City eventually operated under the banner and merchandise system of a competitor. So what exactly was Circuit City's fatal mistake? The evidence supplied does not justify naming a single product bet or isolated management order. The defensible answer is a mechanism rather than a dramatic incident. Circuit City pioneered a format whose value could be reproduced, while the company's own collection of assets proved divisible. When the United States operation reached liquidation, the Canadian chain, website, and trademark could continue separately under new owners. That is the difference between creating a market and securing an empire. Creation gives a company an early identity. Durability requires the operating organization to keep making that identity economically stronger than the alternatives. Circuit City's history confirms the first achievement. Its liquidation confirms that the achievement did not guarantee the second. The human aftermath extended across different organizations and different years. American stores disappeared through liquidation. Canadian locations continued under Bell. Then many closed or converted. The website moved through Systemax and Tiger Direct. The trademark returned under a new owner. Employees, customers, properties, and commercial relationships were no longer held within one Circuit City system. Circuit City, therefore, did not vanish in a single clean event. It was disassembled. Some pieces retained value precisely because the original company had built recognition and reach. But those pieces survived by serving other corporate strategies. The brand became detachable from the stores. The Canadian stores became detachable from the American parent, and the website became detachable from both. That is the precise lesson of the collapse. A pioneering business model is not the same thing as a permanent competitive advantage. If customers, assets, and brand rights can migrate while the operating company fails, then the empire's apparent scale may conceal structural weakness. Circuit City helped create the electronics superstore age, but it could not preserve the unified institution that made that achievement its own. Its fatal mistake, at the level the evidence can support, was not one spectacular gamble. It was allowing a celebrated format to stand in for a defensible, durable system. The category survived, the assets found new owners, and even the name returned. Circuit City's advantage did not disappear. It escaped the company that created it.